We get a ton of questions about our e-bikes, like where can we ride? Where have we ridden? What accessories do we have? Do we like our e-bikes? Are they worth it?
And we're going to answer all of those questions today and much more. Be sure to watch to the very end because we're going to tell you where you are not allowed to ride your e-bikes and how to prevent your e-bike lithium battery from catching fire. We're going to start with the benefits of having an e-bike.
What I like about the e-bike is it allows me to go further on a trail than we normally would on a regular bike because, yeah, as you know, not all trails are flat. Some of them are hilly, and you need a little assist every now and then. The e-bike offers that.
And it really helps people with different abilities get off the couch, get outside, and go out and have a great time. And they've also seen that these e-bikes are helping people get out longer. So people are going much farther and doing a lot more once they're on their bike than they would have with the regular pedal bike. And of course, there are a ton of other benefits too, like they are eco-friendly because there's no emissions.
And for those without a towed, which is a towed behind vehicle, it allows them to maybe go into town from their campground, go to a grocery store that's local. If they have bags or cargo racks on their bike, they can put their stuff on there and take off and be back in no time.
Let's talk about the classification of e-bikes and what qualifies you as an e-bike and which e-bikes are allowed and which ones are legal, because those are some big questions we get all the time.
There are 3 classifications. Class 1 is pedal assist only, so you have no throttle. You just put it in a gear, pedal, and it helps you.
And it goes up to 20 miles an hour as a max.
Right. Class 2 has the pedal assist ability and it has a throttle. Some are the traditional twist-off throttle, some are a thumb throttle. But nonetheless, they have a throttle and they go 20 miles an hour. And Class 3 go 28 miles an hour and they also have a throttle.
Right. And there are a lot more rules with the Class 3 as opposed to the other ones.
Right.
So make sure when you're looking up bikes, e-bikes, look and see what classification they are before you purchase, because we know some people who have purchased Class 3s by mistake and they weren't allowed to do some of the things they wanted to do with them.
Right.
So now that you know the classifications, let's talk about the types of e-bikes and what these e-bikes will provide you.
There are throttle only, there are pedal assist only, and then there's the combination of the two, which is what we have. We have the electric e-bikes, and we have throttle and pedal assist. Now, the throttle, for us guys, if there's a throttle on it,
hey, girls, why are you eliminating the girls?
Well, because you don't use your throttle, so I'm using that as experience. So, for me, I like the throttle. I like to get it up to full 20 miles an hour and just go. I like to feel the wind in my hair.
Shut up.
But you can just hit the throttle and just go, and it'll get you up to 20 miles an hour.
No pedaling required.
Yeah, if you just use throttle only, you're going to go through your battery much quicker than if you did the pedal assist. Our pedal assist have 5 different levels, 1 through 5. So if you want just a little bit of help while you're pedaling, put it on 1, and it gives you that extra oomph to get up over the hill or through a rocky section or whatever. If you want to go faster while pedaling, then you put it on pedal assist 5, pedal, and it'll really pick up and it'll get you up there to the 18, 20 mile an hour zone. If you don't want to use pedal assist at all, there's a setting for that too. You just put it on 0 or whatever.
I do that a lot.
Whatever your brand is, take off the pedal assist and then you can pedal it just like a regular bike. They have gears that you can shift just like a regular bike. Keep in mind that most e-bikes are probably anywhere from 40 to 70 pounds depending on the make and model that you get. So know that when you're pedaling an e-bike without pedal assist, you have that extra weight. And sometimes, like my big one that I have, it's 70-some pounds. I know I'm pedaling a 70-pound bike without pedal assist. I feel it.
Yeah, so if you're getting an e-bike, that is something you want to keep in mind.
Yep.
So you're probably going to end up using some kind of assistance as you're riding it, especially if you're going on hills. Because like Phil said, sometimes these bikes are half your body weight. You know, the whole point in getting them is to go out farther, stay out longer. So even though sometimes I'll turn mine to 0 and won't use it, I usually use it in some way, shape, or form while we are on the ride.
We like to see who used the least amount of battery when we ride. Normally, I've sucked down a lot more battery because I'm on the throttle.
Yes.
Stacy's pedaling with a little bit of assist, so
I want to get
as
much exercise as possible while we are on our e-bikes. I still want to feel like I'm working hard, and Phil just wants to go fast and have fun. So I'm trying to get work out of it too. If you're currently researching e-bikes, there are some things that you need to consider and put on your wish list before you spend all that money and buy the wrong bike.
Yeah, one of the things that we look for was the battery life and the power output. So what that means is we wanted a battery that would go longer on a bike ride depending on how long we were going to ride. So we'd like to go on at least a 20-mile ride, so we want a battery that'll at least keep up to that. Most of them do if you use the pedal assist very little. Me, I might need to recharge when I get to, our destination or halfway through. And the other factor to think about with that is how big a motor will you have. Some motors aren't as big as the ones we have. 750 watts is, I believe, the max motor that you can have on the e-bikes. And for me, I'm a bigger guy, so weight with the bike and the cargo, which I'm the cargo, plays a factor in your battery life and your power.
So, and speaking of that, you're going to need to consider what features that are most important to you, like how heavy is the bike? Do you need something light like a 40-pounder as opposed to an 80-pounder? Do you need a bike that folds so you can stow it in the back of your Jeep? All of those are features you might want to consider before you make the purchase of an e-bike. And of course, one of the biggest factors is going to be price. So when you're looking out there at e-bikes, you're going to see a huge range in prices. And remember, it's just like buying a car. The more luxurious you want to go, the more special features you want, the higher price is going to be. If you can go basic and just get the bare minimums, then you can find a bike like LECTRICs, which are kind of entry-level bike you can get under $1,000. So find your price point, and you can find a bike within that price point.
If you can get out to a bike rental place that has e-bikes, you might be able to rent a few different styles and see what fits your need.
Or even go and just test ride a few. So find what brands, every time you go to an area, see what e-bikes they have in the store and see if you can't go ride a few. And I really recommend testing them on a surface that is not perfectly smooth and paved, because that's when you're really going to decide some of those upgraded features like the shocks Phil's talking about, if it's important to you or not.
There's e-bikes, different styles and brands in just about every campground. So if you're sitting outside and you see one that appeals to you, stop the rider and ask them about it, see what their take is. Ask them if they wouldn't mind you just riding it around the circle.
Find out what they love and hate about their e-bikes. So we do that with RVs. That's a great way to find out, a personal review of a specific brand.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, so one of the biggest questions we get is, where can we ride our e-bikes? Can you take them everywhere?
No.
Short answer is no. But you can take them more places.
Yes, you can. So as an example, we were new to the e-bike scene, and we were going to take our bikes on a trail while we were in Indiana. And like true to form, Stacy's always researching different areas and places. And she'd look up the bike policy for the trails that they had there. And lo and behold, no e-bikes were allowed on any of their trails. And I said, well, we won't pedal. We won't use our pedal assist, or we'll turn it off and we'll just pedal. And she said, no, if you get caught, it's a $2,500 fine.
Per person. The National Park Service, as of 2020, now allows e-bikes in all the national parks and also the national forests. But make sure you look up which trails and what areas they're allowed in and where you're allowed to park them and all the rules, because they'll all have specific rules in each national park or forest. So the one place we know for sure it is not allowed is at wilderness areas. And these are areas governed by the National Park Service, and these are conservation areas or wilderness areas they want to keep pristine for the wildlife. So most of these don't allow cars, they don't allow regular bikes, much less e-bikes. So we talked about where you can ride on the national level. Let's talk about each state and the rules for each state for e-bikes.
Yeah, they vary state to state, so make sure that when you're in a city or town that has bike trails, look them up, know which ones you can go on.
And we do have a ton of resources for you over on the blog. I have a link that breaks down the state's rules and regulations. I also have links for the National Park Service and the National Forestry Service. So if you want more info, head over to the blog and you'll find the links there. Did you know your lithium battery could explode or start a fire? I know a lot of people don't realize that lithium batteries, if used improperly, stored improperly, charged improperly, can start fires. And we've seen RVs burn to the ground because of their lithium batteries. So let's talk about how to prevent that and how to stay safe with your e-bike batteries.
Number one, never leave your lithium battery unattended while charging. And what I mean by that is plug it in, make sure you can eyeball it while it's charging. Some have lights, some have numbers that tell you when it's 100%, but never leave it unattended. I charge mine outside. I put my watch on a timer so I know to go out every 15 minutes and check it. It's just one of those things that you don't want to plug it in, jump in your car and leave.
Or go to sleep.
So we've seen on all of the social media platforms where not only RVs, but houses have burned down because they were charging them in the garage overnight unattended, and they overheat. Once they get to their charge capacity, they're done. Take them off the charger.
Yeah.
You leave them on, they get hot. That's when the accidents and explosions and fires, you just don't want it.
All right, next up, to stay safe with your e-bike, make sure you're using the charger and the battery adapter that came with your specific battery and e-bike.
Right, it's too easy to just say, oh, this one fits, plug it in. It could charge at a faster rate than what the battery's acceptable limit is. The charger itself could overheat because it's working too hard for the battery. All those things come into play. Use what came with the product. Another thing to remember when charging your lithium battery is don't put it next to anything that's combustible. Don't put it next to rags. Don't put it next to upholstery. Be mindful of where you're putting your battery while you're charging it.
So, of course, we're not telling you this to scare you. We're only telling you this so you stay safe. The biggest thing is they can overheat. Of course, we have a few other tips to stay safe over on the blog, so you can go check those out if you want a little more info. Now that we've gone through all the e-bike info, generally speaking, we're going to show you guys some of our favorite e-bike accessories as well as the e-bikes we're currently riding. You guys might already know we're affiliates with LECTRIC, and we've been riding their bikes since their very first prototype, and we have really loved these bikes. But they have some new bikes out with some new features. Some we love, some maybe not so much, but we're going to fill you in on all the details. We are coming to Tampa, and we hope to see you there.
Yeah, January can't get here fast enough for me. I'm ready to go now.
We have been sitting for far too long for Phil, but I'm still busy getting snuggles from the grandbaby, so I'm not ready to leave yet. But like I said, we will be ready to meet and greet in January. If you would like to come to our meetup, make sure you click the link below and buy tickets because they are going fast.
We've joined forces with the cast of RV Unplugged. Proceeds go to a local veteran charity, so it's a win-win for everybody.
We hope to see you there. Even if you're not researching LECTRICs, it's not the brand that you're looking at to go for, these reviews are going to help you guys find the components and the features that you might want in your own e-bike. These are our current array of electric e-bikes, and the way I look at them is we have daddy bike, mama bike, and baby bike. And each one of these bikes have their own features that make them pretty awesome. The question is, which bike is right for you and your needs?
Yeah, I could tell you right out of the gates, heaviest, lightest.
Yes.
So this is a 70-pounder. This is about a 62, 63-pounder. And this one is 43.
With the battery.
With the batteries and something like that.
If you are picking up the bikes like me and you need something lighter because you're putting it in the Jeep or you're putting it on your bike rack, this might be the bike for you. But if weight is not an issue and you want something a little sturdier, beefier, then maybe the daddy bike would work for you. But I can tell you, if it was me without Phil, I would not be able to put that bike on and off our bike rack by myself. So that's something to consider.
Yeah, so let me give you the proper names for these bikes, because if you called LECTRIC and said, I'm looking for the daddy bike, they may not know. So this is the LECTRIC X Premium. This is the LECTRIC 3.0. And this is the LECTRIC XP Lite. Starting with the LECTRIC X Premium, the one thing that I like right out of the gate is the throttle, the twist throttle. It's more like a motorcycle throttle where you twist your wrist and go. We've had the other brand where it had the thumb throttle on it. Wasn't a big fan of that. One of my must-haves when I was looking at an e-bike was the fact that it had a front shock. This definitely helps absorb some of the bumps and potholes while riding. And again, with shoulders and elbows and your wrists, it takes a strain. This alleviates that. Next thing that I like about the LECTRIC X Premium is the fact that it has 2 batteries. Not only do they have 2 batteries, but they're external to the frame. These 2 batteries on the Premium will allow you to go up to 100 miles. So it all depends on how much you're using the throttle, how much you're using the pedal assist. Third thing I like about the X Premium is that they've moved the motor from the rear hub to the center line where the pedals are. So where you're pedaling, the gear is right there, vice in the back tire, in the hub that's propelling you. One of the things I did not consider or even notice when I was looking at the X Premium was that the wheelbase is much longer. That comes into play on the type of bike rack that you're going to put your bikes on. This bike barely fits on the bike rack that I had, so I have to put additional straps on it to secure it while traveling down the road. Now the 3 things that I dislike. One is the weight. This thing is about 73 pounds. I mean, putting it on my bike rack that's up higher, I can do it, but I struggle putting it up there, and I've almost dropped it because of that. So the weight is one. Second thing is there's no shock absorber on the seat post. These things are heavy. They don't give a lot, so if you're riding on some of these trails, it can be a rough ride in the saddle. The third thing is I would prefer a color monitor. We've had another bike that had a color monitor. It was easier to see in the sunlight, and I think it just worked better for me as a rider. One of the newest models in Lectric's arsenal is Electric 3.0. This one here looks very similar to the 2.0, but I'm going to show you a big difference in it. A couple things that I like about this one, again, is the front shock. The other thing I really like about the 3.0 is the back rack that's attached to the bike is now part of the frame. They've welded it to the frame, whereas previous models, it was an attachment. This rack you could take off. This you don't have the ability to take off. It also has a max capacity of 150 pounds. That's because they made it so that you can buy an accessory, a seat pad, with a handle that attaches to the seat post, and you can have a passenger on the back less than 150 pounds and ride with you going down the road. The last thing with the 3.0 is this one does have the option to have the extended battery. It comes with a battery that will go up to 45 miles, but the extended battery will take you up to 60 miles. That is a great feature. This is the Electric XP Lite. And when they say light, they really mean light. This is a 43-pound bike, which I really like. It looks to me like a BMX bike. I mean, it's very rudimentary. They've taken off the fenders, they've taken off the fork, they've taken off the gears, so you can't even shift gears with this one like a regular bike. So the best thing about the XP Lite is just that. It's light, it's foldable, and it's got a smaller footprint when it's closed up. The tires are much smaller on it than compared to the Premium and the 3.0. But this one, as with the other two bikes, the handlebars fold down like so. It folds in the center here, and you can bring it around, and there you go. There's your folded bike. All three bikes fold the exact same way.
Now that Phil has shared his thoughts on the bike, I want to share mine because we definitely come to these bikes from two different experiences. Phil's had a ton of experience on mountain bikes and doing crazy stuff on the mountains, whereas I don't have that experience, so I get nervous much faster than he does. So for me and my size, because I'm much smaller than him, not all these bikes will work for me. So let's start with the XP Lite. This bike is much smaller, and I feel more control when I'm sitting on the seat and holding the handlebars. So at first I thought this bike was my #1 choice, but because of everything they've stripped down on it to make it super light, when I was riding it on a rocky dirt road, I realized this one might not be the one for me because we do a lot of trail riding. So this one loses some of the ability to have control on the back tire once the tire narrows, and without all the shocks, I felt every single bump. So even though I love this bike and the blue totally rocks, this is not my favorite bike. So let's move back to the 3.0. This bike, I feel like I can control it. I don't feel like it's getting away from me. It is comfortable for my height. I am 5 foot tall, so this one is still comfortable for the lean and for control. So for me, this bike is the bike for me. It's a perfect fit, whereas the new fancy bike that Phil likes, it's much longer. I don't feel like I can control it as well just because of the weight and how far I am to the handlebars. So when you're deciding on an e-bike for you, make sure you test different bikes. That way you find the perfect fit for your height, for your weight, and your biking ability. All right, let's talk about the fun stuff. This is all the bells and whistles and upgrades you can do to your e-bike. Of course, we think #1 on the list is this sweet, soft comfort package of a seat you can get.
That's right. The seats have got a little bit more cushion in it, and it has a shock-absorbing seat post. That is really great.
Yeah, so I definitely think this is my #1. But there's a ton of upgrades you can get to go with your bike, including the bike racks.
Yeah, the cargo racks come in 2 different sizes, and they go on the back just like so.
We don't usually use these hard baskets. We prefer bags, so that way we can zip things up and hold them tight. There are a ton of those available too. You can see we've chosen this bag, which is a pannier style bag. So once you start opening this bag up, it can hold a lot of stuff. So we tend to pack it full when we're on longer rides. All right, let's talk about safety. Again, of course, we're talking about helmets, and we hope you guys are going to buy a helmet and find a good helmet to wear while you're on your e-bike, because the last thing you want to do is crash on a trail going 20 miles an hour, fall down the side of a cliff without your helmet on.
We chose the Senna bike helmet. Now, they are an approved safety helmet for bike riding, but what we loved about them is the fact that they have controls on here, wireless controls, so we can communicate through an intercom system built into the helmet, so that we can talk to each other without screaming or hollering. She can be in front of me or behind me, and we can talk just like we're talking now, and she can hear me.
It's like being on a cell phone with each other.
Yeah.
There's a new feature for safety that we think is really important.
Safety feature she's talking about is called the MIPS system. And MIPS is a multi-directional impact protection system that they built into the helmets. And it's basically designed to help prevent concussions if you do fall and smack your head.
As you're researching your e-bikes, don't forget to research how you're going to carry them around, especially if you're traveling.
Yeah, the bike rack that we chose had to be weight specific enough to hold at least 120 pounds. We have a Thule EasyFold XT bike rack, and at the time we were looking, they were limited in our area.
And it wasn't just Thule. As far as all brands, the ability to carry the weight that we needed, it was really hard to find any kind of bike carrier that was rated for that weight. When you're deciding on a bike rack for your e-bikes, make sure you think about how you're going to store that bike rack. Is it going to fold? Is it coming off your car or your RV? So think about those items as well. That's one of the deciding factors for us when we chose this bike rack. For more information on all the e-bike topics that we mentioned today in this video, head over to the blog. It is definitely more in-depth than what we went into today.
And to find the blog, it is at todayissomeday.net.
Or hit the link down below.
Down below, right below where it says more, hit that button. You'll see it there.
And we would love to know your experience with e-bikes. What e-bike do you have? What do you love about it? What do you wish you could change? And have you had any issues riding your e-bikes anywhere throughout the U.S.? So anybody doing research and trying to find an e-bike for themselves will love anything you can contribute.
That's right. I know a lot of people read through the comments, so anything you put down in the comments will be useful for sure. I can guarantee that.
Oh, and don't forget to give us your favorite e-bike accessory. Drop that down below too. So the big thing, okay.
Yeah, So there are two types. Look like an abused husband. I'll fall off this table.
Okay.
No, I won't, because that'll hurt
Yes,
more
it
than
will.
getting punched by you. All right.